I have a message I want to put out there. I think that because things are so centralized right now and people are not super possessive over their grids, their distribution networks that they're a part of without really knowing who is providing what to you, I think this is a recipe for disaster. And I think ultimately what this results in is a pseudo enslavement and indentured servitude to some degree to major companies who do not have your best interest at heart and do not see you as a person. They see you as a number, a digit, something to take money from. And we're really moving into a dystopian kind of world where the major tech companies are intrinsic to your lifestyle. You cannot separate them from your use of the internet. You cannot separate them from your livelihood. And they're coming to put you in deeper within their grasp, within their thrall. This is something I'm trying to present here in this video. And I know that this is going to be a little bit like out there sounding, but I think this is something we all need to pay very close attention to. Because what is happening is that the same companies who are willing to deplatform a major competitor to Twitter.
Yes. Amazon is the largest cloud storage vendor in the world, and we use them to host our servers, hundreds of servers. And they gave us they said, you have 24 hours to get all of your data and to find new servers. So, where are you going to find 300 to 500 servers in a 24-hour window, and how can you send all of the data from everybody out to them in a 24-hour period? It's an impossible feat that, we're going to handle as best we can to get back online as quickly as possible. But, there's just some things that are almost basically impossible.
Are also the same people who are willing to provide you with cheap and convenient replacements for delivery drivers in the form of drones.
Starting early 2021, companies will be able to operate their drones around people and at night with some regulations. Amazon already has their Prime Air program in beta testing right now, where they're promising small deliveries in 30 minutes or less via their new drone. Google's parent company Alphabet have their own drone startup called Wing, where they're kind of like a UPS or FedEx service, but with drones that target small business owners. Wing offers them a way to deliver small goods to their local customers exactly when they need it, within 6 miles in 6 minutes.
Do you think that there's a chance that they couldn't pull the same parlor tactic on a small business they don't agree with if they've already done it to Parler with Amazon's cloud servers? Again, this is the same company. They're run by the same people. What would make us not think they do the same thing, potentially? Why? Another question, why would we want to be beholden to these people? At the end of the day, I think the only way we can get out of all this is if we understand that we give them as much power as we let them have. We need to be responsible for our own means of distribution. When it comes to these companies, they have been working tirelessly at providing highly cheap, convenient new services, and everyone just wants to get on the bandwagon immediately for these services without understanding the ramifications of becoming reliant on, let's say, drone shipments, let's say, major internet infrastructure. These are all very new things to people, and they're not going to be as, discriminatory with it because it's so new. It's so new they don't think to maybe be like, well, this company already owns, my internet, and it already owns most of, let's say, payment processing. I know I'm mixing things together here, but it's sort of like, yeah, they already own a lot of shit. And then you give them more and more layers in your life, at which point you realize that if this company was to suddenly crack the whip on you, you would have no power to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I would prefer to do what is easy than what is more independent or more free. Not everyone's willing to make that decision, nor does everyone have a reason to make that decision. But once these companies start to act in a tyrannical fashion due to the monopoly, due to the amount of power this gives them, it's inevitable that they're going to be abusive. I think that is something that people are not realizing. Well, look at Twitter. Twitter was hegemonic, and for years they've been coming for alternatives to Twitter and Facebook. They've been coming for alternative payment processors that aren't Patreon. We've known this is coming. and then they came for Parler, and everyone was surprised. I think people are just surprised, and me included, on the extent to which they took down Parler. They lobbied in like many ways against them. I mean, Amazon first off took off their services from them, so then they had to shut down because they were using their cloud services. But not only that, did they also intimidated smaller businesses to stop them from working with John Matz. And John Matz doesn't think he's going to get his company back at this point because his reputation has been immediately tarnished by all the different infrastructure networks that he relied on, which was dumb to rely on, all turning on him all at once.
You know, if everything is perfect and we don't lose any more vendors, which won't happen, you know, you're talking, you know, half a week, you'll start losing any more, you know, it could be never. We have to get back on Amazon because the damage of them taking us off is far beyond financial that we cannot recover unless they put us back.
This represents to me that the current system of people running major tech sites, major tech infrastructure pieces are not trustworthy and should not be relied on. And I know people are like, well, what's the alternative? There is none. And it's because people don't realize that first of all, it is viable to make an alternative because people will use your new site if there's enough push to leave these big tech sites if they start to act abusive. That's what happened with alt tech. That's what's happening with Gab. And Gab was smart. Gab went and made their own servers. Gab went and made their own e-commerce, their own payment processors, I believe. And they are going to be an island in a sea of, well, serfs, essentially, to the Google, Amazon, Apple, big tech cartel hegemon, right? We need to think about tech in the same way that Gab is thought about tech. Just because Google and Amazon are going to beat you to the majority of the market share of, let's say, drone distribution, let's say some other future resource that people are going to be wanting to have, do not have this discourage you from actually providing a market alternative or attempting to come up with a market alternative for these big tech sites, for these big tech companies. Because lots of normal people don't realize that they want freedom until they start to feel oppressed. And until it starts to affect them personally, they won't feel oppressed. I think ultimately at the end of the day, people slowly are coaxed into tyranny, and only when it starts to get really bad do they see what is really happening to them. They've been enslaved, essentially. And at this point, I feel like this is where I am at with Amazon to some degree, because they own all the distribution, or they own a bulk market share of the distribution, and they are providing such a heightened service over any other distributor. It's almost like it's not worth using other distributors because they are not as qualitative as Amazon. But just you wait, there will be a reason to not use Amazon, and I think that day is coming, and I think that day has already happened for what happened with John Matz. There could be a day where these people are going to try and shut you off. There's a day coming where they are going to be making individual processing decisions on whether or not you can have a livelihood based off of what you are selling or what the message associated with what you're selling is. And I know this sounds like some crazy conspiratorial stuff, but all I'm saying is connect the dots. Why would these companies do this for John Matz, but not do this for you? So don't be discouraged. Freedom is the answer. And I believe radical self-reliance, as Jack Murphy has stated, is the path forward.
There's self-sufficient with your land and with your energy and with your food. They're self-sufficient with mining the information space that's out there. And if you can combine those two together, you no longer want to be, quote, off the grid. You want to be off the grids you want off of, and on the grids you want to be on. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm aiming for, that duality. Off the bad grids, on the good grids, with a community and a network of my choice.
Do not have these tech sites coax you into believing that you can't fight them. That's what they want you to believe. That's what really the thing is, they're so big that they can crumble so quickly. But if you as a smaller distributor, could potentially come up with an answer that is better and more, better and more accountable than they are. People might just go to your service because they can trust you more than Jeff Bezos. So just remember that. Freedom is the answer. Do not let these tech sites convince you that you are a serf.